Screech by Taran NCT on AO3. Episode 30, Chapter 31. This is bullshit, Hitoshi thought to himself as he dodged another hit from one of the science fair rejection monsters. They were fast, but not as fast as the one from the USJ. They were strong, but again, not as strong as that one. The area was so saturated in monsters, he wasn't able to just run to the perimeter like Izuku told him to. Hitoshi paused in his running as he caught sight of his dad fighting. In the years Hitoshi had been living with his parents, he had never felt like his dad was useless in a battle. Well, congrats, universe. Today's the day. All he could do was watch helplessly as his dad threw the monster to another hero with a destructive quirk and dodge the hits that were aimed at him. Most of the monsters were shrugging off his dad's attack, and Hitoshi winced as Dad's knife slipped in half as it struck one of the creatures that looked to have some sort of rock quirk. Hitoshi did notice that a lot of the creatures seemed to be targeting his dad, though, and he was sure it had something to do with the guy that was fighting All Might. Hitoshi was willing to bet the man didn't want Dad erasing his quirk. Quirks? Every time Dad managed to get that man in his sight, one of the monsters abruptly changed their target to him. Hitoshi saw an opening, but he didn't think he'd be able to make it past them to safety. Fuck. Why did he have to get abducted without any weapons? He could kill to have his scarf on him right now. He turned his attention back to the man fighting, ducking as he saw his dad throw another one of the monsters into the path of a very irritated Endeavor. And he looked back to All Might and the guy in the suit. He felt more than he saw his dad come up next to him, watching in horror as this man's suit arm turned into a sharply pointed tentacle and stabbed All Might in the stomach. Hitoshi, you need to get out of here. He heard Dad hiss at him. Hitoshi could feel the terror sneaking up on him. If All Might couldn't beat this guy, what hope did the rest of the heroes have? Dad was able to just barely hold his own out there. And where was Pa? Hitoshi started looking around. He hadn't really heard Pa fighting. Is he okay? Pa's fights are anything but subtle. If he was okay, he should have been able to hear him. Hitoshi startled when a hand fell on his shoulders and almost went to throw the person when he realized it was just Dad. Hitoshi, you need to get out of here, he repeated. Where's Dad? Hitoshi asked, ignoring Dad telling him to leave. He knows he needs to leave. He wants to, but he also needs to know his Pa is okay. Dad huffed slightly, understanding where Hitoshi was coming from, and pointed. He's over there, kicking ass. Now will you get off this battlefield and get to safety? Hitoshi looked over to where his dad had pointed and saw Pa surrounded by monsters. No other heroes around him. Opening his mouth and screaming, with no sound coming out. He was worried up until he started seeing the creatures exploding around him. How is he doing that? Hitoshi asked, as Dad decided he spent enough time trying to convince Hitoshi to leave and just picked him up. High frequency, low volume. Dad answered. You didn't think All Might could do was scream, did you? These are his most deadliest attacks, the ones he wouldn't do around others. That made sense. Hitoshi looked back to where All Might was fighting the guy in the suit, but Dad had covered his eyes and turned his head back to the front. You don't need to see that right now. You'll see it on the news later. Shouta managed to toss his son over the perimeter line and yell for an officer to make sure he stayed safe before dashing back into the fight. He had to stop Hitoshi from seeing what was most likely a killing blow to All Might, but that just meant that the other heroes would need him out there more than ever to deal with that psycho. The swarms of monsters had finally started to thin out, so it didn't take Shouta too long to locate the villain. His heart skipped a beat, though, when he saw the villain standing right in front of Izuku, and then skipped a second time when he saw a severed wing at Izuku's feet while he held what looked like someone's arm in his hand. Shouta had to get to his son, and he had to get there soon. He watched as the villain impaled All Might. He can see All Might struggling to breathe, holding on to dear life by a thread, He can't let the villain do the same thing to his son. The villain was talking to Izuku, and as Shouta got closer, he could hear what he was saying. His tone was soothing, relaxing, even if the words themselves weren't. You could be powerful, unstoppable. Join me. Dear Katsuki told me about you, and after witnessing the two of you in an action, you would be a force to be reckoned with. Shouta was about to risk everything and step in between the two of them when Izuku suddenly looked down in the arm in his hand, steel in his expression, and then threw the arm at the villain. Time seemed to slow as the arm sailed in the air and hit the villain in the face with the open palm. You dare, he hissed at Izuku, to throw an arm at me. All trace of soothing, relaxing voice were now gone, replaced by an oppressive melody. Izuku glared at him. You were using some sort of quirk on me to try to persuade me to join you. I almost didn't notice it, but you messed up one thing. And what would that be? I had a stress grip on that arm. I shouldn't have been able to release my grip for a little while longer, at least until the battle here was done. Izuku shook his head slightly. I shouldn't have been calm enough to release a stress grip. Shouta could almost feel the annoyance turn into anger, and he knew it was only a matter of seconds before the villain attacked Izuku. Shouta couldn't take the thought of losing either of his sons, so he dashed in, hoping to get in between the two before the villain could attack his son. But the villain, instead, turned to specifically target Shouta. Less than a second later, the same tentacles that implored All Might were shooting towards Shouta, and he tried to activate his quirk, only to blink a moment later from dry, dusty, and wind-aggravated his eyes. He was fully prepared to die here, so long as both of his sons were safe, when he got pushed back by some loud sonic blast. When Shouta looked up, Izuku was standing over him, and facing the villain. His talons were still out, but now he was crouched in a defensive stance, and glaring for all he was worth. You don't have my permission to attack my dad, Izuku hissed at the villain, before he took a deep breath. Shouta barely had time to quickly cover his ears, and scoot away from Izuku, when he unleashed the same screech at the villain that he did at the monster from the USJ. Even with Shouta covering his ears, the sound was way too loud for him, and he was sure he was going to need a visit from Shio right after this was over. When he felt something slide over his ears, he looked up to see Hizashi had put his spare headphones over his ears, thankfully blocking out all the noise. Shouta stood up with Hisashi's help, sighing a quick thanks to his husband, and looked back at the villain. He could see the villain clutching himself tightly, as if willing his atoms to stop vibrating apart. The villain seemed to regain his composure, so Shouta looked at Izuku, only to see he had stopped his screech and was saying something to him. Shouta started to lift the headphones off to try to hear what was being said, but Hizashi made him keep them on. Don't. I have a feeling the baby's going to start again in a second. Hizashi signed. He's giving the guy time to get himself up, but after what he did to All Might. Shouta nods as Hizashi trailed off, just as sure the villain would attempt to attack again. And sure enough, his arms both plunged with some sort of attack, and Izuku let loose another powerful sound waves, so loud and high-pitched that Shouta could feel the vibrations in his own body, to a much lower degree. Hizashi stepped in front of him, and took a deep breath of his own, then added his own quirked scream, matching frequencies with Izuku. It took them longer than the creature at the USJ, but soon enough, the villain exploded in a shower of gore. Second time this year. This is the second time this year Izuku's killed someone with his screech. But at least this time he wasn't alone. Hizashi... No. Pa pulled him into a hug. He had helped Izuku work through some of the guilt of killing the Nomu at the USJ, and Izuku was sure he thought Izuku would be feeling a lot like this time, but strangely, Izuku felt okay. Not good, not at all, but okay. Izuku's head jerked up slightly as he heard a wet cough, and a voice calling to him. All Might was waving him over. He dashed out of Pa's arms to run to the clearly dying hero, not fully registering that both Dad and Pa were following him. Izuku was sure he was hoping Izuku could fly him to get medical help, and Izuku was prepared to let him know that he couldn't fly right now, not with only one wing, when All Might gave him his signature smile. Izuku dropped beside All Might and looked at his injuries, started pulling out first aid materials from his utility pouch. I can't fly you into med right now. I'm sorry, but I can try to stop the bleeding while they get here. All Might coughed again. Don't bother, young Midoriya, he said, voice quiet. I won't make it off this battlefield. All Might paused to weakly cough, clearly losing the fight to stay alive. Please, tell Mirai I'm sorry, and that he was right. All Might closed his eyes. No, Izuku whispered. All Might couldn't be. He couldn't be. Gone. Izuku checked his pulse and didn't feel anything. He bowed his head and sighed, a landing on his shoulders, and he looked up to see his dad there, with a pair of headphones around his neck. Come on, kid. Let's go see if we can help with the last few Nomu. Sasha can stay here with All Might. If there's no more to help with, we can find the mechs and get someone here to take care of him. Izuku wanted to protest, and there really wasn't anything he could really say. Besides, he could see a little bit of blood dripping from his dad's ear, and he knew he needed to see medics. I did that, didn't I? He asked. Dad glanced at Pa, and Pa said, It's not as bad as it looks, Zuko. Yeah, Sho can't really hear very well right now, but it's not the first time this has happened. I got the headphones on him before it got too bad, but his ears are probably ringing like crazy. Pa hugged him tightly. I've done worse to him, baby, and you don't really have much choice in the matter. Please, don't blame yourself, okay? Izuku stood up and glanced back at his dad and signed. You're not mad at me about your hearing, are you? Dad shook his head. My ears are ringing, yeah, but nothing too bad. I'm not nauseous and no vertigo. Even if I don't see a medic, I'll be fine. Big Chio is somewhere here in the clusterfuck, so I'll be okay before we even get home. The two of them started off towards the medics, finding that there were only 3 Nomu left, and they were all being handled already. They passed where Izuku had fought Bakugou and that creepy face guy, and Dad paused, having noticed his wing. Izuku, hang on. Let me grab your wing. Maybe Chio can find a way to reattach it. He reached down to pick it up, but Izuku tugged on his sleeve to get his attention. Don't bother, Izuku signed. Not only can I not bring my wings when they're injured, it's not the first time I've lost a wing. I'll be fine. Dad just stared at him as if he had grown a second head. What? So, All Might died. All Might died. I shouldn't be laughing. I really shouldn't. Is that the major character death? I mean, he wasn't like a main character, but like he's a main character in like the main cast. Like, is that the major character death? Like I'm thinking, where the fuck did I get that cut? Okay, anyways, because I'm over here like, is that the major character? Is this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? For a second, I thought it was gonna be Shouta, and I was gonna quit. If it was Shouta, like if Shouta Aizawa right there at that moment died, and I wasn't mentally prepared for that, like I'm not mentally prepared for that. No, I cannot be getting a weird itch in my fucking throat right now. Do not tell me I'm getting sick. I can't be sick. There is no sick for me. Okay, but as I was saying, I drank some water. Hopefully that helps it out. But it's starting to hurt as I talk, and I have a lot more videos to record today, so we're not doing that. But as I said, if Shouta Aizawa were to die right now, in this fanfic, at that moment, I would have quit. Not just this fanfic. I mean, I would have quit YouTube as a whole. Just up, right, and left quit. Yep. Nope, we're not doing that. I said the same thing for My Hero Academia as a whole, like the main anime. I was like, if he is dead, I'm quitting. I literally said that. I'm like, I'm quitting. Fuck that shit. I'm quitting. And so I'm not quitting. But I almost quit YouTube right here. But as I was saying, Izuku's gonna get his wing back. I kind of thought maybe he's gonna get his wing back. You know, he didn't seem too worried about that. Also, death grip, stress grip, that is a thing. I've learned about it. That is a thing. I think yeah, that is a thing with certain birds. When they're really stressed out, they just, you know, which is interesting that's the thing that saved him. Also, I wonder what's gonna happen to Bakugou. Is he just gonna die out later because he has no arm and you know he doesn't have medical care? Are we gonna see him again, or is Bakugou just done for? We're not gonna see him anymore. Is it just oh well, bye bye, you know? I wonder what happened to Dabi. I really hope Magne, Toga, and Twice are okay. As I said, there's certain villains that are redeemable. Toga, Magne, and Twice are somewhat redeemable. Specifically, for different reasons, obviously. Magne, I'm biased. Toga, obviously, you know, she's killed people before, but it is a result of abuse, because you cannot tell me that she was not abused. And having that type of bloodish quirk, probably being villainous, probably people didn't like her. And by her character development that we've been seeing in season 6, and then obviously in the manga and in the war arc, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it checks out, if I'm being honest. It really does check out. As for Twice, motherfucker's mentally not okay. Not at all. I wouldn't even call it. I don't even know if I could call it DID. I mean, it looks like DID at first glance, but looking at it truly, I don't know. I honest to God don't know if it's DID. I feel like there's some OCD in there, clearly, right? With the whole face can't be out kind of thing, where he literally can't have his face out. Obviously that not whole, you know, diagnosing it with OCD, because it's just one symptom and you need multiple symptoms for you to be diagnosed with something. Same with DID and stuff. I would have to look into the DSM-5 and stuff, but if I had just to throw some in there that are similar, I'm not diagnosing him, but you know, that's kind of symptoms from this thing, which is DID, dissociative identity disorder, I think it's so called, yeah. There's also, what's it called? As I said, a little bit of OCD. I'm trying to think. There's a third one. I would say hysterectomy, but no. Not hysterectomy. Hyster something. But probably, I wouldn't say psychosis, but there's some paranoia there. There is some sort of paranoia, there. So, one of the paranoia disorders, definitely. So, obviously, those are the villains that are redeemable. Dabi is a case-by-case process. Obviously, canonical Dabi is not redeemable. This fanfiction Dabi is redeemable. So those are the characters that I kind of want to see more of. I want to know if, you know, how they make it out. Even if, we don't, see it in the fanfic. Hi, author. I know you're listening to this. And if, you know, we don't see it in the fanfic, do they make it? Are they okay? I just want to know. You don't have to tell me in detail, what happens. Are they okay? All right. Do they get better? Are they okay? Do they go back to crime? Do they go back to a normal life? Found family kind of thing? Are they okay? Are they alive? Are they well? Are they okay? You know? And I really hope we get to see Dabi a little more. I wonder what's going to happen with Bakugou. Are we going to get him back? Is he going to die from blood loss? Oh my god, wait, what arm got ripped off? I need to know what arm got ripped off and where. If so, haha, Lily/Lotus treatment. I'm telling you, as I said before, with the wing, every time I see a character coughing up blood, my mind goes, ooh, Yui core, because Yui coughs up blood. She also vomits blood, and there was that one time where I had her vomit her internal organs. Yeah, that wasn't fun. I am mean, okay? I'm mean to my OCs. If you think I'm mean to, you know, Izuku and Fluffy Mind, I'm horrible to my OCs, okay? I love them, and that's why I torture them. Obviously, Lily and Lotus, they get their arm cut off. It's always their right arm, and it's always 2 to 3 inches above their elbow. Sometimes they get a prosthetic. I'm nice sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes that's what ends up killing them. Sometimes they get to live. Most of the time they get to live, though, because, you know, that's the fun in just killing them off. But, Yui. What was I gonna say? All Might died. That's another thing. For a second there, I thought, oh, no, please don't tell me you're gonna give Izuku, the All Might's quirk. Right? Because I was like, hold up. No. Like, it would be super cool because he would be overpowered, but there's also the whole thing of, like, okay, you know, canonical Izuku, who has strong, not strong bones, but, like, you know, not hollow bones, not bird bones, wasn't able to handle that. I don't think Bird Izuku could. Okay? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think he would survive that shit. I'm gonna be honest. I think you give him the quirk and he'll explode. I don't think his bones can handle that. Alright? We've already been told that he's lightweight. I was so worried, but it's like, okay, no. He died and he ended up saying that last message, which, by the way, I had so much fun doing that. I had so much fun voice acting that shit. That was funny. That was fun. I also think that is interesting last words. It's a very sad death in the sense of shit. He just now realized he fucked up. It's obviously he's not saying like, oh, I fucked up, right? That would be bad writing. I think this is good writing because within the dialogue, you can infer that he's probably in his last moments, the last thing he thinks about is Sir Night-Eye, right? That's the last person he thinks about. And he's probably thinking, and obviously he tells Izuku to tell Sir Night-Eye that he was right. Right? And I don't think it's only just about his death. I think he's gonna tell us, like, you're right. I was wrong. I was in the wrong. This is supposed to be an apology. I messed up. And I'm sorry I'm leaving you. That's the full meaning of what he said, right? Which, again, psychology-wise, I always love when dialogue is little words, but they mean so much more than just that. Right? Like, for example, Izuku's I promise. We already established beforehand that he does not like to make promises that he can't keep. Right? So him promising, right, to first-handed, if, you know, you didn't catch on, first-handed, you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, he promised. Right? And if you dig deep into the actual psyche of the character and what was going on in their head, you realize, oh, shit. Motherfucker meant it. That promise means more than just, oh yeah, I promise. It's a fucking did it. Like, him saying I promise is basically saying that I'm doing it. No matter what. It's gonna get done because I don't break promises. Which, like, damn. Also, Izuku, what do you mean you've lost a wing Izuku, I was joking when I said that cut off the wings, chip. Like, please, Izuku. Izuku? Izuku. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.